Good.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the July 18th meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission. Please rise and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First, let me start by saying this is our favorite meeting. It's casual day. We're all wearing our nice comfortables today instead of suits. I want to welcome everybody to this. Ms. Marcelino, would you call roll, please?
Thank you. Commissioner Engler? Here. Commissioner Reeder?
Here.
Vice Chair Gregory?
Here.
Chair Simpson and Commissioner Lemo are absent.
All right. We have a massive audience today, but let me ask, do we have any public comments? Should we read the...
As of this time, we didn't get any speaker or written statement cards for public comments.
Then I think we could skip over that. That'd be great. All right, moving on. Let's see, summary notes. Anybody have any questions on the summary notes from last meeting? No? If there are none, do we need to vote on that to accept them? No? All right. Let's see. Let's just get right to the engineering reports. In that case, 6A, and this is a staff report. I believe Engineer Munoz is providing us some info. Please proceed.
Good evening. Thank you to all the members of the Commission for providing us this opportunity to present a new capital project that is currently under development, and we look forward to gathering input from the Commission. My name is Jorge Munoz. I am an engineering associate in the Capital Division within the Public Works Department. The project I will be discussing is the Kaneho School Road and Willow Lane Improvement Project. I'll brief over the background of the project. The city has an ongoing program to construct sidewalks throughout the community. At the Public Works Department, we maintain a priority list that ranks missing sidewalk locations throughout the city based on several factors, including pedestrian traffic volumes, proximity to schools, and road classifications. The incomplete sidewalk sections on Kaneho School Road and Willow Lane between Hampshire Road and Hillcrest Drive is a priority location. This area provides pedestrian and cyclist connectivity to both sides of the 101 freeway and is a direct path to Kaneho Elementary School and Thousand Oaks Boulevard. Due to the project's potential of improving safety for pedestrians and bicyclists, among many other factors, city staff successfully pursued federal, state, and county grants to supplement the estimated project cost of $4 million. With that, I'll move on with the project objectives. One of the project objectives is to make the area safer for pedestrians. As part of the project, we are proposing to achieve this objective by installing sidewalks at incomplete sections within the project limits, as well as retrofitting existing curb ramps to make them ADA compliant, reconstructing private property driveways to accommodate the new sidewalks, and providing enhanced crosswalks throughout the project corridor. Another project objective is to make this area safer for bicyclists. We are proposing, as part of this project, to achieve this objective by providing bicycle facilities such as Class 2 bike lanes and Class 3 bike routes, also known as sharrows, within the project limits in both directions. So for sake of discussion, I will be breaking up the project into 4 segments and performing comparison between the existing conditions and the proposed enhancements of the project. So segment 1 is on Kaneho School Road between Hillcrest Drive and Los Feliz Drive. So as you can see in these images and cross sections, Within this first segment, the images show and highlight some of the incomplete sidewalk sections, lack of bicycle facilities, and confusing drop-off lane striping that's in front of the Kaneho Elementary School. As part of the project, we are proposing to install the missing sections of sidewalk, restripe the roadway to provide Class 2 bike lanes in both directions, as well as provide dedicated lanes for parents to drop off their students in front of the school, enhancing the safety in that area. Moving on to segment 2, which is also on Kaneho School Road, and this section is between Los Feliz Drive and the 101 freeway. So these images and cross sections are just north of Thousand Oaks Boulevard, and again, this highlights the substandard facilities that we have for our pedestrians and cyclists in this section. Just south of Thousand Oaks Boulevard, this street view illustrates the lack of bicycle facilities. And another thing to note is that there are some non-ADA compliant sidewalks, particularly around the driveway approaches. So the proposed improvements, again, for segment 2 is to provide the missing sidewalks. And in this particular area, we also have some future developments that are currently under construction. And so the city is under coordination with these developers to anticipate the additional increase in traffic volumes in this area. And we're planning to add a center median to allow access to enhance the safety for those future developments. Just south of Thousand Oaks Boulevard, the project is proposing to include bicycle facilities in both directions, as well as enhance the safety to access to the mobile home park. So moving on to segment 3, this area is on Willow Lane between the 101 freeway and Skyline Drive. As the images show here for the existing conditions, we have some missing sidewalk connections in this corridor and no bicycle facilities. And so the project is proposing to continue the sidewalks throughout the corridor, as well as provide Class 2 bike lanes in both directions. One thing to note is in this particular corridor, we will be required to construct a retaining wall to allow for the road widening and to construct the new sidewalks. And then finally, segment 4, which is also on Willow Lane, is between Skyline Drive and Hampshire Road. These street view images and cross sections highlight the missing sidewalk, lack of pedestrian crossing in Manzanita Lane, also the lack of bicycle facilities, and also the lack of designated parking lanes. So as part of the segment 4 proposed improvements, the improvements includes installing sidewalks, restriping the roadway to provide Class 3 bikeways, also known as Sharrow, and provide marked crosswalk at Willow Lane and Manzanita. Furthermore, this area of the project will require acquiring easements from several property owners to transition their existing driveways to new sidewalk grades. So I'd like to share this rendering of Kaneho School Road after the proposed improvements we just discussed are completed. Similarly, here's a rendering of what Willow Lane could look like once the project is completed. So to provide a current status of the project, we're currently in the design phase. We anticipate completing the design early next year and going for Caltrans approval. And city staff is anticipating the start of construction at the end of 2019. As part of our design phase, city staff held a community outreach meeting back in June to inform the residents of the project and gather input. We had participation from residents potentially affected by the project, and their main concerns were speeding and non-resident parking on Willow Lane. So we have taken some immediate action by contacting the Thousand Oaks Boulevard Police Department to mitigate and enforce speeding on Willow Lane. as shown in the images here. And staff is also exploring long-term solutions such as roadway narrowing to calm vehicle travel speeds and implementing resident permitted parking on Willow Lane. So with that, I've concluded our presentation, and thank you.
All right. Well, I see we have no public comment on this. So, commissioners, do you have questions? Yes, please.
Thank you. On our handout, referring to segment E, the area between Los Feliz and Thousand Oaks Boulevard and Kaneho School Road, I noticed that you have a striped median added there where none is existing now. Can you describe the pros and cons of adding a striped median?
So you're talking about just north of Thousand Oaks Boulevard, from Los Feliz to Thousand Oaks. So the real benefit, you're talking about the it's actually a center turn lane that we're adding.
Well, the median extends all the way up to Los Feliz.
Yes. The purpose of that is to provide the opportunity for left turns initially into that future development we know of. But there's also potential for other developments in that area, as we see, and additionally, you don't want to be transitioning in and out of those turn lanes. So that's the real purpose. It's a pretty short segment, actually.
All right. And any cons to that, such as forcing the traffic closer to the bicycle lane?
That would be the only con. Again, the lanes in this area. One thing about the striping is you're actually narrowing the street to a certain extent, so we anticipate speeds to be reduced. It's also, again, a pretty short block, and speeds are not we don't really have a speeding problem in that area at this time.
All right.
Currently, that stretch of roadway feels unimproved and almost a little bit rural. And what we found is by adding sidewalks and striping and making it feel a little bit more like a city street, that it tends to slow people down.
All right. Thank you. On our diagram here, I can't read how wide that median is. Is it wide enough to accommodate a car? Yeah, so 12 feet is normal.
13 feet.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks for explaining that. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Engler, do you have something?
Yeah, I appreciate the time you put into the presentation. I think that my question is around Willow. I think that idea of traffic calming is a good one. Were you saying that you anticipated making the traffic lanes smaller to try and accommodate the traffic speeds?
Yeah, that's correct. We're still I think we're looking at 11-foot lanes through that area. Not down to 10, but down to 11. Again, striping that bike lane where there's room, and actually adding an edge striping for the parking lane. So again, to try to make that road feel a little more narrow and a little more like a community road with sidewalks and whatnot. And I think that should help.
Yeah, it's really a cut-through lane, a stretch, and I know that people are using that to get to two segments of our town. And I'm not sure if I'm a little concerned that you aren't necessarily changing the behavior of the drivers, but you're you're reducing the width of those lanes. And I think that striping and all will be helpful, but I'm a little concerned about the impact of the way that road is being used already now, and whether in fact will accomplish what you are hoping to.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, and we don't see that cut around will change either as traffic increases on Hampshire. A lot of people use it to go back and forth. What we want to do is make sure that we've made that road safer for all the users by giving the cyclists a place to be and the pedestrians a sidewalk to walk on, and we're hopeful that then the cars maybe will feel like they're a little more restricted, and typically we found that narrow lanes do slow cars down at least a little bit, and it may only be a few miles an hour, but it doesn't feel like they're the only ones on the road then. And currently those lanes are, I want to say 12 to 14 feet wide. So they actually get rather large, which kind of lets people kind of put their foot on the accelerator and go. So we'll have to see if additional mitigation is needed in the future. We'll have to address that. We could always add, radar feedback signs. At this point in time, there's no stop signs or anything warranted on that stretch based on traffic. But we'll see where things end up. It's incremental. We expect it to be incremental.
So, did you make all the changes basically that the public had requested, or did they have any feedback that needed to be taken into account?
Primarily, as stated, their concerns were people drive too fast, and there's some businesses there that the employees seem to be parking in their neighborhood. So the speed issue, we'll have to see if these improvements have some benefit. The controlled crosswalk will again help. Again, there's going to be a lot more signage. The road should feel very different than it feels today. Obviously, we aren't going to. It's very difficult to make people slow down. So you have to create an environment that wants them to slow down. So we're really going to have to wait and see. Parking wise, we have reached out to the business that seemed to be causing the issues and talked about and again we've kind of given them some options for permit parking. We'll have to keep working on it.
All right. Well, I'm happy with this project. I'm glad to see it move forward, and it certainly is going to enhance the community quite a bit. And it won't be that far off into the future, is it? The funding is already there, right?
Yeah, as that slide indicated, I believe we've gotten close to 70% of the funding grant funded, which is pretty good.
That's one of the strengths of your department and others in the city. So thank you for all your good efforts. Any other questions on this matter? All right, then moving on. And this is certainly a very interesting one, and we don't have any public comment on it either, but we're moving on to 6B, fire hydrant parking zone, one we've all been exposed to.
Good evening, Vice Chair Gregory and fellow commissioners. Before you this evening for your consideration is a recommendation to change Municipal Code Section 4-3.407E, designating the restricted parking limits in front of fire hydrants. The California Vehicle Code, Section 22514B, allows local agencies to change the prohibited parking zone near fire hydrants from 15 feet on each side for a total of 30 feet to as little as 5 feet on each side for 10 feet total. We are proposing 10-foot clearance on either side of the hydrant for a total of 20 feet. The reason for the proposed change is to maximize the available parking spaces on Thousand Oaks Boulevard and surrounding streets. The reason we didn't go or aren't recommending we go to 5 feet is anything less than 10 requires painting of the curbs and signage. And if you've ever been in any of the big cities, particularly on the East Coast or even in San Francisco, you might recall seeing they are 5 feet. 5 feet on either side, and there's a little red curb there in front of the hydrant, and there's always that fire hydrant sign sticking up in the air. And that's because, and we really don't want the boulevard to look like that. So we kind of were looking for this in between size. We consulted with the Ventura County Fire Department, and they don't have any concerns regarding this proposed change. When the fire department looks for a hydrant, they pick up the little blue marker in the street, and they typically take a lane. They don't ever pull into the parking area specifically. So 20 feet total clear area is plenty for them to work, and they had no concerns about that. The proposed language change was attached to your staff report and is shown here. It really changes the 20 to 15. It's very, very simple. I'm sorry, 15 to 10 on each side. I apologize. And your recommendation is in the staff report, and we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to take the first question on this one because I've always wanted to know, and I'm going to ask Sergeant Patterson, that when somebody's parking in one of these zones, and are you cited when your bumper sticks over into that zone by inches? Sometimes you just can't quite make it without cozying up to the guy's bumper in front of you. But what is the ruling on that?
Well, yes, there's the requirement for the space, but as was pointed out, we don't paint the curbs and there aren't signage. So there's a little bit of leeway that's given because of that, because we don't have red curbs painted in front of every one of them or a sign saying fire hydrant, keep clear. There's a little bit of common sense brought into is it exactly 10 feet, 15 feet, or is it, intrusive into what the intent was.
Right. That's good to know. Thank you. Other than that, I really don't have any questions. How about the other commissioners?
Thank you. I just had a question for Sergeant Patterson as well. And my handout here, it says Section 22514 reads as follows. Section A, if the vehicle is attended by a licensed driver who is seated in the front seat and who can immediately move such vehicle in case of necessity. Is that legal?
Yes. As long as the vehicle's not left unattended.
Yeah, as long as the driver's in there, you can
park in a fire lane as long as there is a driver behind the wheel of driving age with a valid license that could move the car in case of emergency.
Okay. And then on the following page in section 4-3407, it says, no person shall park, stop, or leave standing any vehicle, trailer, or camper, whether attended or unattended. Is that a conflict?
Specifically for the fire hydrants, one's the municipal code and the other is the vehicle code, obviously.
Which one should we follow?
Well, we follow the municipal code that's based on the vehicle code. So typically we do not cite people if they're stopped in the fire lane.
Okay.
If their vehicle is left unattended, they will be cited.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Engler, do you have anything?
Thank you. So I have a question for you, Mr. Finley. Is this specifically for Thousand Oaks Boulevard, or is this going to apply all across the city?
So we had a lot of discussion about that. As we've heard from the sergeant, where there's no markings, there's a certain amount of flexibility provided anyway, since it's not, no one gets out a tape measure and measures. We decided to make this a change in the municipal code and make it citywide. The fire department had no concern about that, and we felt it makes it easier to enforce to have one rule citywide. The reason this came up for discussion is because, as you are aware, we are adding parking T's to the boulevard, specifically, and maybe the neighboring streets at the request of the downtown merchants, the bid. Where this came into effect is suddenly if we're marking parking spaces, we have to follow the municipal code. And that extra 5 feet gives us the opportunity to mark a parking space a little closer to the fire hydrant than what people are probably already encroaching in that 5 feet without any issues. So this is really clean up to do that marking. So I would say it's really because of the boulevard we're doing this to try to maximize parking spaces and then being consistent with the municipal code.
So I understand. I read your packet regarding how this came about and your reasoning behind requesting that this commission vote on this. But outside of the Thousand Oaks Boulevard area, do we have other commercial locations, or commercial or not commercial, where you actually have striping, you actually have parking spaces identified on streets where you in fact have to restripe to meet the municipal code if we change it?
We currently don't have any other areas of town that we have parking T's identified, any other business districts, although I can anticipate in the future we may. But so to answer your question, there's no striping that's going to need to be changed at this point in time to meet these new requirements.
Thank you. I realized I misspoke when I said for us to change the municipal code, which we wouldn't be doing, but in terms of voting on this.
Yes.
So, thank you.
So if we're done with this, is this something that becomes effective once we vote on it, or does it have to go to City Council?
This will, you are making a recommendation tonight to the City Council.
Correct.
To make these changes. So this will go to the City Council.
Oh, I see. So I've heard no objection, so let me just make a motion, if somebody will second it, that we vote on this. Would you please take the vote, Mrs. Marcelino? Oh, we got it. We got a second, yes.
Commissioner Engler,
Yes.
Commissioner Reader,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gregory.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0. The Traffic Commission makes recommendations to the City Council, and interested parties may attend the City Council meeting and speak either for or against the recommendation of the Traffic Commission. Any person wishing to appeal a decision of the Traffic Commission shall file a written appeal and pay an appeal fee with the City Clerk Department within 14 calendar days of this decision. The matter will be referred to the City Council at the earliest reasonable and available date. The appeal fee will be refunded only if the City Council overturns the Traffic Commission's decision. An appeal form is available from the recording secretary.
Well, thank you. Moving on, 6C, which is Thousand Oaks Pedestrian Crossing. In years past, I've actually walked this site with some of the other commissioners at that time. Yeah, it is. I'm glad you're addressing it further. It really is kind of like the chicken trying to cross the road there. So please give your report.
Hey, thank you, Chair Gregory. I'm Kathy Lowry. I work in traffic. Obviously, I'm an engineer associate. The item before you is an information item on the Highway Safety Improvement Program application to be submitted for the Thousand Oaks Boulevard pedestrian crossing. The purpose of my presentation tonight is to update you on the application and to receive any comments. The Highway Safety Improvement Program is designed to achieve a significant reduction in traffic fatalities and injuries. The grant program is set up to identify problem locations, the improvements, and then apply for the grant to fund the improvement. We have identified the pedestrian crossings on Thousand Oaks Boulevard between Kaneho School Road and Skyline Drive as needing improvements. The study area was identified on Thousand Oaks Boulevard between the two signalized intersections of Kaneho School Road and Skyline Drive, which are shown with the green dots. The two pedestrian crossings are at Oakview and Live Oak and are shown with the blue dots. There has been vehicle and pedestrian collisions at both the pedestrian crossings. Within the study area is a mix of commercial uses, as indicated by the red, and residential uses, as indicated by the green. Residents in the green area can conveniently walk to the boulevard for shopping and work, and children walk to Kaneho Elementary School located north of the boulevard. The distance between the two signalized intersections is almost exactly a half a mile. A study of the pedestrian counts at the two crosswalks indicated that almost twice as many pedestrians and cyclists use the Live Oak crosswalk. On an average day, 122 people crossed at Live Oak compared to 74 people at Oakview. Here's an eastbound view of the Oakview crosswalk, which is a four-legged intersection. You can see there's a slight curve in the road that impairs visibility of motorists approaching the intersection. It has pedestrian-activated rapid flashing beacons and in-ground pavement lights located on the crosswalk markings. East and west of the intersection are markings called Shark's Tooth. They're installed for the purpose of indicating where cars should stop when the rapid flashing beacons and in-ground lights are activated. This is the eastbound view of Live Oak Crosswalk, which has the same signs and markings as the Oakview intersection. Thousand Oaks Boulevard and Live Oak is a three-legged intersection, although on the north side is one of the two driveways to 24-Hour Fitness, which based on the volumes, it functions as a four-legged intersection. One of the two driveways for 24-Hour Fitness is behind the blue SUV in the picture. As part of this study, staff conducted public outreach in the study area. Flyers were hand-delivered to all the businesses, which provided information about the online survey and invited them to a community meeting. The online survey was posted on the neighborhood site called Nextdoor, and the Thousand Oaks Business Improvement District received an email with a copy of the flyer and the survey to distribute to their members. A neighborhood meeting was held on July 12th at the Crowley House, which is located 1 block off Thousand Oaks Boulevard behind the Sofa Guy. Three main ideas suggested at the meeting. There were three main ideas suggested at the meeting. One is the overhead rectangular rapid flashing beacon, which is activated by a pedestrian. This is the one in the picture is on Erbs Road at Hauser Circle. The benefit of this device over the existing rapid flashing beacons is the beacons can be easily seen since they are located over the street and not to the side of the road. Another idea is the pedestrian hybrid beacon, or the Hawk. This device stops traffic when a pedestrian activates the system. As you can see in the picture, when activated, the lights turn red. It provides enough time to cross the street. After the walk time is completed, the system goes dark. Locally, they have not installed them, but you can find them in cities like Chula Vista and Sacramento. The Hawk requires meeting Caltrans warrants prior to installation. A review of the warrants is part of the study and has not yet been determined if it has met warrants. Another idea is to remove both the crosswalks and combine them into one crosswalk located between the two existing crosswalks. Additionally, a refuge island and curb extensions could be added to shorten the crossing distance and increase pedestrian safety. The overhead rapid flashing beacons, or the Hawk, could also be included into the design. It's very important to note that the graphic you're looking at is just a concept to show the refuge island and the curb extensions, and the city is not proposing to reduce the number of lanes on the boulevard from the existing 4 lanes. We are working on analyzing the traffic count data, the survey data, and other public comments, and hope to have a draft report completed within the next 2 weeks in order to meet the deadline for the grant application. We would like to include any comments from tonight's meeting in the report, and I'd be happy to take any questions or comments at this time.
Well, let's open it up to questions. Who would like to go first? Commissioner Engler?
Thank you for your presentation, Kathy. My question is on what you believe cars are going to really recognize, because they're traveling at a faster rate of speed on Thousand Oaks Boulevard. And it seems as if the shark's tooth markings are, I don't know how effective they are in actually getting traffic to understand that's where they stop. I think that's a little vague. And I also wonder how, with as much activity, as many signs as there are in so many businesses, there's a lot of activity. I don't know if we can be subtle in our lighting and such. So that's just an observation on my part that I think if we do a center median and a bulb out, that would be actually my preference, but that requires building and changing the street itself. I like reducing the distance that pedestrians travel across those lanes, and yet the negative of that would be that you have to show that lane is being encroached upon with that bulb out at the point that cars are coming up to it. I'm sure that's going to be something that you have to plan through. Obviously, you do that every time, but I think we have to be less subtle in the Thousand Oaks Boulevard in how we communicate with drivers who are traveling faster than most small neighborhood streets.
Thank you for your comments, because it's exactly why we're looking into improving the project, because what we have out there right now, although it's a lot of signs and flashing lights, it may be too subtle. So that's what we're looking into.
Commissioner Reeder?
Thank you, Chair. Can we drill down into the nature of the accidents that are occurring there? It says here there's 25 collisions, some of them involving pedestrians.
How much detail?
Well,
not really. There's more rear end accidents. I can tell you that. That's the highest type of accident.
For pedestrians.
Yes. So in terms of that, that's what we've been seeing. As the pedestrians are stepping out, cars stop, and then the car behind them didn't realize that the car was going to stop.
How would you address that?
The research shows by having the overhead signs, whether it's the Hawk or the light that's over the road. Again, Thousand Oaks Boulevard is very wide, especially with the wide center turn median, that the oncoming traffic will be already looking down the street, and then their eyes are already right there, and they'll see the lights and they'll see the flashing more than they see it on the sides. Now it kind of comes, there's just a lot going on. The sun's out. People aren't looking to the sides to see if those are flashing. A lot of times they're looking to see if there's just cars coming out of driveways. So hopefully that will direct their eyes.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. So the overhead lights seems like the way to go. I would also support combining the two crosswalks into one, namely because Las Vegas Strip has pedestrians everywhere, and they do not have crosswalks at every intersection. They'd rather have a few and let a large group of people cross at one time. That seems to work out well, so maybe we can take some observations what some of the other cities are doing.
Okay.
So, but thank you for doing this report for us. You know, I was smiling though here, and this is kind of a smart remark because it says here smart crosswalks were installed in 2011, and now we have 25 collisions in 5 years after that. So I go, well. Yeah, so I don't.
We're always
I don't
looking
think
to
there was
improve.
a correlation there, but
That
you
was
know,
more of a marketing term than it was a reality, unfortunately.
And I'm sure the existing crosswalk is better than having no flashing lights and
oh, of course,
and no.
I just kind of like the way it was written.
Right.
Well, and these are all good points. And one of my observation from it is that the people they're not paying attention except for the car that's in front of them, and they don't expect it to stop. So I would suggest that we move the flashing light up above. That way, all the traffic can see it flashing at the same time. They'll have a chance to, start slowing down at the same time. I'm not sure, stopping the traffic there might not be, could potentially cause a problem depending on how it transitions. If all of a sudden something goes to red and you have to stop, what happens if you're close to it? As you can't control when pedestrians actually trigger it. So all of a sudden it's like, wow, something goes red and you can't really stop. So do you cram on your brake?
There's actually, I didn't go into a lot of details about the hawk signal, but it's phased. It starts with yellow and then it holds on red and then it goes dark. So yeah,
Right.
There's no like, boom, it's red, surprise. So.
Well, that's good. If I had my druthers or my feedback, I would say we should probably start with, the flashing yellow above. Then there is room because there's a turn lane in the middle here
That's
to
correct.
put an island
Yes.
that we could progress then to the turn. Putting an island in there, and then if we needed to increase that, go to other circumstances. I would probably defer to your, whether the expense gets progressively too much, or we should just go with the full-blown solution.
So one of the challenges of one of the things we know is physically changing the crosswalk. In other words, curb extensions and a center median raised island. Suddenly, because then you can put signs on it. Suddenly, those physical changes immediately make drivers see there's something going on, even if there's no pedestrians there, because the lane's narrow. A lot of things, start to happen. And the problem at the intersections is, one, they're very close together. So you might slow down for the first one and speed up and slow down. They're awfully close, but not next to each other. So that's a little bit of a challenge. And they also do have turn lanes in them. And if you put a center island in, you've now taken away, there's not enough real estate to put that center turn lane in. So part of the idea of moving it to the middle of the block is you can have a nice big wide curb extension on both sides and that center median and really create a bottleneck. Still be 2 lanes in each direction, but you will know that you've kind of entered this pedestrian zone, if you will. And we'll see what the consultant says, but we think that might provide us the best solution. Again, then we're going to have to train those pedestrians to walk and we've looked at it. It's only about 250 feet out of their way, so it's not
Right.
very far. But there's the other end of that.
Well, 24-hour fitness is over there, so they'll just have to put a few more steps on their Fitbit. So, that sounds good to me. And my only concern, again, is will they use it if they have to walk that extra? So I'll wait to get a little more feedback on that. But these are all good suggestions. And if we combine them, just like Commissioner Reeder said, that may be the better way to go. We can attack one point better than multiples, I think. Thank you. Anybody have any more questions? Okay, 1 second.
So my question, having heard fellow commissioners speak, my question is, are there going to be planned changes to Thousand Oaks Boulevard in the near future, in the next few years, where you anticipate changing the street significantly elsewhere with the development of the specific plan?
The answer to that is yes. Clearly, there's a detailed plan that's been developed for this downtown core, which involves permanently narrowing the street. So these curb extensions would probably match that narrowing, or be a similar dimension. So again, this choking of the street, you're going to come through this narrow section here in front of City Hall. Then it may widen out. You've got parking along the street. Then there may be these curb extensions for these pedestrian crossings that narrow the street and limit parking in those specific areas. And I could see that model kind of bouncing around as needed up and down the boulevard. So we're trying to make sure things are consistent, and this is one of the ideas in that plan, actually.
All right. And then what kind of time frame will you have additional info for us?
Right now, the grant application is due by the middle of August, and that date's coming up really quick. So what we anticipate is we'll get a draft report from the consultant. We'll review it internally, submit it, and this is what's required of the grant application, is that you have public input, you have concepts, you have cost estimates, and then we'll submit the grant. And fingers crossed we get it. It pays 100%, and then we'll come back and come back to the Traffic Commission with this is the status of what's going on with that, and then we'll have a timeline for when it would be implemented.
Great.
But again, nothing's just will just happen. There'll be a lot more information provided.
All right. Well, then we'll wait to hear more. Hopefully, earlier than later. Right. But thank you for all your hard work at addressing this problem right here. All right, no more questions. Then we're moving on to 7, status report of prior Traffic Commission recommendations.
Yes, that status report on June 5th, the City Council did approve the Traffic Commission recommendations to discontinue the crossing guards services at the intersection of Borchard Road, Michael Drive, and Gainsborough, Windsor Drive, and to provide new crossing guard service at the intersection of Cascade and Pennamont Court. So that did happen, and those changes will occur in the fall school year, so in August.
Good timing from us. If that is all, then let's move on to 8, and that's commission referrals from April 18th and May 16th.
Yeah, those referrals are the answers to your questions are in the staff report. Staff's here if you have any follow-up questions relative to those. I was not going to read them out to you because I'm sure you've read them.
We do have one question.
On the left turn arrow on eastbound Avenida de los Arblos at Westlake Boulevard, we're holding traffic there even though the eastbound traffic can cross the intersection. No one can make a left turn at the same time. And it's all explained here with split phase and this and that. But if we were to eliminate that, holding that traffic, what would be in jeopardy?
It's, as it was explained in the referral, because the intersection's not aligned, that's why it is split phased. If you were to eliminate holding that traffic, which means they would both be going at the same time, there would be the possibility of head-on collisions because the intersection is not aligned.
I looked at it. It looked like it was aligned. I mean, people coming out of that residential have a straight shot down Avenida de los Árboles.
Yeah. You know, we can take another look at it. The traffic engineer who did the analysis isn't here, so we can relook at it and bring it back to you at the next meeting.
Well, or maybe we can just do it on the side. It doesn't have to be in the
Okay,
meeting,
that'd be fine too.
All right, good. And
One other thing I wanted to say at that intersection, one of the other benefits of the way it's established now is it says in there is we use that phase, that westbound left turn phase, to cross pedestrians in that crosswalk. So that's one of the, if that's not the reason that's there, that's one of the benefits of having there. Otherwise, that crossing would have to occur either as its own phase, or we would have to separate the northbound Westlake left and through. Currently, that is a single phase. In other words, northbound, everybody goes, and somehow you got to get those PEDs across that north leg of that intersection. And currently, we're using the westbound left turn phase, where we're holding those folks that are traveling eastbound to do that PED crossing. So, just something to consider. You know, that's one of the unintended consequences of that change. If we were to change that, we'd have to change something else. Not that maybe there's that many PEDs, I'm not sure, but it's just something to note.
all right, thank you. One other one. On the flashing yellow arrows, on my way in here today, I was at Skyline and Hillcrest, and we came to a red light. And there was a car waiting to turn left onto Skyline. He didn't get a green arrow. It went immediately to flashing yellow. This isn't the way it should work. I came down T.O. Boulevard, then turned left onto Dallas. Exact same thing. I'm waiting there. There's no green arrow for me.
A question that I have, and I think I've witnessed this as well. Was it red when you pulled up to the intersection?
Yes.
It was red. Because I actually, okay. Let me follow up.
Well, it just
we'll
needs
follow
to
up
be
with.
checked again.
Yeah, we'll check it. We'll check it again. I think I have experienced this as well, where it just all of a sudden started flashing yellow, and I'm not quite sure if I was in the. Sometimes I thought I was in the middle of a phase, possibly, but then it shouldn't have been sitting on red. It should have just been flashing. So I will have Robert, and I went looking for Robert. He's out of the office this week as well. So
All right, thank you.
we'll get back to you specifically.
And then we've spoken about holding that red arrow for a couple seconds before to allow the opposing traffic to get a start.
Right.
Otherwise, someone may feel, well, there's no one moving yet. Off they go.
We will have Robert get back. Maybe we can have a discussion specifically.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Has anybody looked at the future agenda items, the work program commission schedule? Any questions on that? I note one that's going to be here in the winter, and that's Camino Manzano's permit parking petition. That'll be fun. I expect lots of people. Other than that, everything is pretty straightforward. Then we'll move on to 10. I think we covered some of 10. You had the additional questions. Do you have any other traffic commission comments or discussions? And we do not. Oh my gosh. Then in that case, I'm looking at the clock, and not quite record time, but I'm going to adjourn. It is my understanding that we always go dark in August, so everybody have a safe balance of their summer. And before I adjourn, I just want to remind you to drive safely. We don't want to hear about any problems we have to deal with that are caused by drivers. All right, we'll deal with everything else for you. So I'm adjourning. The Traffic Commission and Transport Advisory Commission is now adjourned until 6 p.m. on September 19th. in the boardroom of the Civic Arts Plaza on the 3rd floor. So good night.